So many.
I put you on there, like, just put your house.
Yeah. But we could walk into Ringwood anytime we want. We can go right there. We knew all the ushers. He took back in practice in the World Series before the game. Yeah. There you go.
All right, it's 5:45. We'll call the meeting to order. Thanks everyone for being here. Welcome to our regular board meeting of September 8th, 2025. We'll start with roll call.
Dale Delkey. Amy Riddle Swanson.
Here.
Emily Hines. Here. Rachel Henderson.
Here.
Abe Smith.
Here.
Amber Kirstein.
Here.
Michelle Dupree.
Here.
Angela Wolf.
Here. Great. We have a quorum. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our mission statement. The school district of the Menomonie area, by embracing the unique needs and using the strengths of our diverse community, is dedicated to preparing all students to become lifelong learners, caring individuals, and responsible citizens. Do we have any proposed changes to the agenda order tonight? Seeing none. I'm sorry. Okay, we have one commendation tonight. And it was unprepared. And this is for Melinda Long. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. All right, Melinda is an exceptional leader and reading interventionist at Wakanda Elementary, known for her expertise in supporting students and coaching educators. Over the past year, she led the successful implementation of Act 20 requirements, ensuring universal literacy screening and personalized reading plans. Her dedication extends beyond the school year, including her recent participation in the Wisconsin Forward Exam item review for grades 3 to 4 ELA. Thank you, Melinda.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. You haven't done one else. Thank you.
You might want to read the full version. It's for you.
Our next agenda item is the September 2025 highlight on youth. Are you ready?
You bet. Thank you, Rachel. And anybody who is following along online or anybody who has a device can check out the September highlight on youth. Thank you to the building principals for putting this together. It's hard to believe we're already well into our new school year. This is the first full week of the school year, but it feels like we've been at it now for a couple of weeks, and our students and staff members are doing a wonderful job. Much of the highlight on youth has to do with either the activities that have already been going on since August. You can see at the high school there's a lot of different student activities going on. Had a very successful freshman first day, and we're very, very proud of that program that our lake leaders put together. And I don't want to steal the thunder from our student reps, but they do a great job getting our freshmen into the school setting and making them feel more comfortable. Also, Menomonie Middle School, same type of thing with the 8th grade core leaders. I had an opportunity to watch Mr. Betcher's all-school assembly last week, and it was just marvelous to see the energy over at the middle school. Staff members were all dressed up together in different outfits based on which department or which grade level they were. and the kids just loved it. Mr. Betcher had the theme music from the Chicago Bulls going, introducing the staff members in front of the whole student body who was cheering. And I really liked how we also kept the 8th graders back once the 6th and 7th graders were dismissed, and really talked to the 8th graders about being building leaders and how it's a good opportunity for them to really lead the middle school this year. Our elementary schools off to a great start. Had a chance to visit each elementary school. As our principals have talked about in their updates, a lot of building of routine for the students. It always is sometimes challenging for the new school year and building those routines, but our staff members do a great job setting those routines with our kids. And you can read the rest of it online, but again, great job to everyone involved, and we're off to a great start.
Are you planning to send these out through Parent Square in order to get that up and running?
Yes, yep. Last year we did send them out via email, so it'll be similar to that, and Parent Square should make it even easier for people to access.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next up, we have our new student council representatives here to do the student representative communications.
Before they get started, I just want to thank our reps that we have here tonight. They're both juniors. We have Ari DeLong and we have Bauer Messerschmidt. Guys, thank you for being here. Take it away.
Good evening, members of the school board. Student council is very excited to be back and presenting the recent activities happening with our school. Our student body president and vice president are currently competing and practicing for their fall sports, but I'm Ari DeLong and I'm the junior student body president.
And I am Bauer, junior representative. So far, we've had a great start to the school year. DECA officers met in August to connect with new advisor, Mr. Cat and Ms. Goodman. A main takeaway was that the DECA officers want to leave a legacy and DECA in good shape for upcoming members.
MHS had our first Leaders of the Herd meeting. This is a high school leadership council that has been made by representatives from all sports of MHS. The athletes were nominated by their coaches. These students have great leadership qualities, demonstrate positive character, and are willing to serve as advocates for their peers. The students will be meeting once a month to complete a leadership lesson together with the idea that they can take these lessons back to their team or peers to continue and grow their positive influence throughout the school.
The equestrian team is gearing up for their first competition on Saturday, September 6th.
MHS environmental biology students, along with UW Stout and community volunteers, will be beginning a multi-year project to removing invasive plant species and then replanting native species of trees back on campus. This is a continuation of work done across the street from MHS a couple years ago. Environmental biology students also enjoyed a presentation on monarch butterfly tagging from guest Richard Brent. Special thanks again to this year Dale and Linda Dalkey for allowing Richard to capture their monarchs in their prairie.
MHS homecoming is fast approaching. This year's theme is movies, and our slogan is Nom Through the Lens. During homecoming week, each grade level will compete in competitions to earn money for their class. They will compete in dress-up days, wall decorations, floats, and games and skits. The dress-up days are Monday, movie night, pajama day. Tuesday is Adam Sandler. Wednesday is streaming services / class color. Colors are freshmen, Netflix Red, sophomores, Disney Plus / Blue, juniors, Apple TV / White, seniors, HBO Max / Black. Thursday, dress up as a movie character day, and Friday is Mustang Pride. On February 26th, we will have our coronation assembly, and we will crown a homecoming king and queen. We will then have our homecoming parade at 4 p.m. We will finish our night off with homecoming football game at 7 p.m. at Don and Nona Williams Stadium. On Saturday, Student Council will be hosting our annual homecoming dance at 8 p.m.
Just to clarify, it's Friday the 26th, not February. Just don't worry. That's all we have for today, and thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for all of that. Next up on the agenda, we have community communications. And we have one speaker tonight, Josie Holman.
Hi, I'm Josie Tillman, I'm from NAP. Dr. Zadowski and members of the board. As we begin a new school year, I want to commend you on your goals to enforce Act 20, which seeks to teach a phonics-based approach to reading. This is a valuable tool for the vast majority of students learning to read. Phonics is a key that can unlock mysteries of how to decipher words and consequently how to read. Second, I also affirm the decision to remove cell phones from the classrooms. Again, this should help to remove distractions from the learning space. Good job. Our culture is filled with people, organizations, events, and social movements that would work evil in our children's lives. Our educators of high character need wisdom when their consciences are being threatened by the march of godlessness in our community and nation. These teachers who stand with confident humility and who persevere in doing what is right should be supported by the SDMA board policies and our Menomonie community. I discovered that the bully prevention program in SDMA often teaches the staff that bullying prevention starts social emotional learning. This teaching is closely linked to the normalization of LGBTQ behavior. Thus, in the early years, a child is programmed to believe that perverted or unnatural sexual behavior is normal. Therefore, anytime the child sees this behavior and knows it is wrong, that impulse is squashed. This can cause confusion and often gender dysphoria. Whenever you are told that right is wrong and wrong is right, especially by a trusted authority like a teacher, there is an internal conflict until the conscience is summarily numbed. At that point, we will begin to see gender-confused students. It is very dangerous to have gender-confused students who are counseled that they must not believe what their own eyes tell them. The reality of their biology is wrong, and they will never be happy unless they change their sex, which they can never do. This produces mentally unstable students. Instead, teachers must be taught how to counsel these students into reality. We live in a culture that turns truth on its head. This makes for a very dark road for these children. Remember Chloe Cole. Our teachers must be allowed to courageously speak the truth with love and empathy for the good of our students. Our teachers must teach you are one sex from the moment of conception until death, and nothing you can do or think will change that. Then as our elementary children mature into middle and high school, they will be wise, critical thinkers, knowing truth from lies and knowing how to speak the truth in love to their fellow peers. They will know the difference between being a bully and speaking the truth bravely and clearly with empathy and compassion. It just might save some lives. Thank you.
I just want to note that board docs has been freezing for me, and if it's freezing for anyone else, we have paper copies of the agenda right here. Next up on the agenda, we have revenue and expenditure reports for the month ended August 2025.
Yes, so first the revenue. If you look at that, like last month, there's not too much activity to report yet. We still have quite a bit of revenue in, but looking back at last year, this pattern is not unusual for this point in the fiscal year. Next is the expense report by object. There is an increase in property services compared to last year, and this is primarily due to projects at the track and also the tennis court. The apparel category also shows a higher percentage, but this is because the budget for this line was reduced for the 25-26 year. The actual spending is relatively consistent with the prior years. So I'll continue monitoring this account to make sure the allocation is sufficient for the remainder of the year. Next is the expense report by function. There's nothing particularly unusual here, and some of the year-over-year increases can be explained by the timing of purchases as compared with last year. Any questions?
Is the relative increase in the apparel expenditures been, does that have anything to do with the changes to the school store at the high school? Or is that pretty
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Does anyone else have questions or comments, discussion on the revenue and expenditure reports? All right. Next, we have our monthly employment report for August of 2025. This is, oh, do you want to say something about it? Go ahead. Just to say this is an informational report.
Yes, we did receive retirement notices from Terry Esslinger, Loretta Label, and Lori Erickson, effective January 2026. So certainly that's a lot of experience and terrific people that will be missing. Mrs. Hoyt will have her hands full in terms of the HR department and trying to fill some very big shoes. But we wish all of them, the best and thank them for their many years of service. We'll look forward to celebrating with them as it gets closer.
It looks like we've got lots of para hires. That's great. So how is the para and substitute teacher pool looking?
So we are fully staffed with our paras, so that's great. We have a couple of, actually just talked with Stacy Nelson this afternoon, we have a couple of food service, nutrition service positions that we need to fill, but other than that, knock on wood, we are fully staffed. When it comes to subs, I check those every morning. We're looking pretty good. We, as always, we can always use more para subs, so if you know somebody who's interested, send them my way. Actually, I had one of our subs reach out to me today, and they are only looking for teacher positions, and he was wondering if something was wrong with the app because he's not seeing anything. And so I said we've been very fortunate up to this point that we haven't had a lot of subs, or the need for a lot of subs. So I hope that trend continues, and if not, we're still in a good place. We've got some really good people. We're able to fill some long-term positions with our sub pool, and in addition, still have some that are very interested in day-to-day.
Thank you.
Overall, great news. Thank you. All right, next up we have the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. All right, motion by Amber, second by Michelle. Tonight we have minutes from the regular board, minutes from the regular board meeting of August 11th, 2025, and the special board meeting of August 25th, as well as the annual meeting minutes of August 25th. We have financial reports, general fund checks in the amount of $2,062,306.19, and cash receipts in the amount of $125,776.08 for August of 2025. Donations exceeding $1,000, we have a $2,500 classroom grant from state Jackie Hunt Insurance Agency. We also have a cooperative agreement for deaf and hard of hearing teacher between Chippewa Falls School District and the Menomonie Area School District. And finally, we have travel requests for the MHS Choral Department and Honors Orchestra to the appropriate Dorian festivals at Luther College. Any questions or discussion on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, let's vote. Motion passes unanimously. No content in the personnel consent agenda tonight. So on to our discussion items. First up, we have the Building and Grounds Annual Report with our director here, Mr. Kazak.
So starting out on our list of some of the projects that we finished throughout the course of the year. Menomonie High School pool project. This has been one that's been going on for a couple of years now. In this list of items, the heat exchanger is the new product that was installed. But along with that, we've done some work to the floor, the filtration system, controller, and installed new deck boards. Right now, we are working on finding an engineering firm that can help me out with the bidding specifications for the what I think is going to be a plumbing line replacement or repair. So once we get that going, we are going to work with the school, figure out what time of year is best to tackle the hopefully final stage of this project and move forward with it. Also at the high school, we did some work to the track. My records show that the track was built in 2016. Since then, we've been utilizing that original base layer of the track. It has held up very well, typically 6 to 8 years. So it's been track. What we did is a structural spray, which essentially puts another wear layer on top of the existing layer. We should be getting another 8 to 10 years out of that track with this additional layer, and then we can do that again. I was trying to get some direction on what the longevity of a track as a whole is, and I don't have a really good answer. I can say that northern states, they typically last a lot longer because they're covered in snow a lot of the year. So they don't get that exposure to the UV rays, which is very hard on the tracks. I did find out there's a track just like ours in New York State that's over 30 years old and it's in great shape. So track should be good for years to come. High school tennis courts. I obviously had the tracks in my mind when I typed this, so sorry for the typos, but the 6 courts to the north all were resurfaced. And then the 4 southern ones were completely rebuilt. So the base course underneath the asphalt of those 4 courts was not sufficient. So we tore everything out, rebuilt them, and they're up and running now. I think we still have just a couple small punch list items to take care of, but the students are using the courts at this time. High school gym also had new fixtures installed over the winter months, so that's in the main gym as well as the outdoor gym mezzanine area. Throughout the district, we did some work in the parking lots. So here at the district office and over at Oak Lawn, we crack seal and paint lines. Those take the things. River Heights got some new doors, exterior doors in the gym and cafeteria areas. And then finally some PM work was done to the high school chiller. So those are the bigger projects from the last year. Some of the smaller things that our maintenance staff have taken care of. To me, the standout one was moving everything that was needed to be moved up from Downsville to Oak Lawn and River Heights. So we started that process in the beginning of summer, took the cargo trailer down there and a bunch of trips and got everything moved up to town. So since that time, just for informational purposes, we have been going down to Downsville making building checks. So a minimum of every other week, one of the maintenance staff, myself or Steve, is down in that building. Often this one week. Just walking through, checking the rooms, making sure everything looks good, HVAC functioning like normal. We're running the water. Anywhere we can run the water out of, we're doing so we keep the lines flush. So far, everything's going well there. We do plan to take over the snow removal at that location this year, just because we have a little extra time to get to it before school starts. We don't have to meet that deadline anymore, so we're going to try and see if we can fit it in to save a little bit of money on that. Elsewhere in the district, a little bit of landscaping took place this year. Here at the district office, we freshened up outside a little bit, moved stone, took a couple small trees out, got everything pruned up. I think it turned out pretty decent. Elsewhere in the district, we're starting to lose a fair amount of trees. High school is one of the big ones. Most of their softwood trees, which I believe are popples, they're starting to, but I assume, reach the end of their life expectancy. They're a fast-growing tree. People plant them for a reason, but they don't stay around very long. So between there and Oak Lawn and the middle school have also lost some ash trees. So our maintenance staff have taken care of those. Now we're just waiting on the tree service to come through to do some stump grinding. In the energy department this year, I know Steve does a much more in-depth report. I just wanted to talk about a couple quick things. HVAC scheduling, as simple as it sounds, it's one of those things we do every week and it's very time consuming. So if you can imagine every meeting, every event, anything that happens inside the buildings, we go into the HVAC system and make sure that those areas are scheduled. In addition to that, we are signed up with XL Energy for gas curtailments and heat control periods. In a nutshell, we enjoy a reduced rate to agree to a couple things. For the gas curtailments, typically in the middle of winter when it's really cold and they're struggling to supply all of their customers enough natural gas, will be asked to cut the gas at our locations and switch over to LP. It's probably only happened twice in my time with the district, but this year was one of them. It was one of those cold nights that went into effect at midnight. Not ideal, but we made the deadline and switched everything over and they switched it back the following day. The gas curtailments, there is no definite end. We just have to wait for the phone call and watch the gauges on the tanks and hope for the best. Peak control, a little bit easier to manage. So for that, we have to go down below a predetermined level. We can easily tell we're at those levels with our V gauges that we have at those locations. So essentially what we do is shut our chillers off. This summer, with all the heat and humidity, we had it 3 times. So 3 different evenings, 4 hours each. Each time went well. Nothing really to talk about there, but it's well worth the work. Health and safety. I started a little project this summer. It's going to be ongoing probably for a couple of years, but the goal is to get a district-wide lockout takeout program going. So in order to do that, we have to go through each building and document all hazardous equipment. Most equipment can be hazardous. If it has electric, if it has gas, there's the potential there. So you think boiler, you write down boiler. Well, the boiler has electric, it has gas, it could have LP, it has hot water. There's all these different things that could hurt people that go to maintain it. So for the sake of electric, where's the panel? What room number is that panel in? What's the panel number? What breaker number? All those specific things get recorded. So it's a start. I have NAP pretty much done and now looking forward to high school. And another topic is lead testing. About the time that the city was doing some lead testing, now they pulled samples from all of our buildings. I drove them over to Colfax, had them tested, and everything came back good. No concerns found. Staffing, I already mentioned one of our custodians is going to be retiring in January, as well as one of our major maintenance staff. So we will be losing 2 of this coming start of the year. And finally, fleet and equipment upgrades. This year we had 1 student transportation van that we traded in. So that's it for the update. I'll just say really quickly, kind of coming up next is the Fund 46 meeting will be right around the corner. So we're already starting to look at all, throughout the year we look at all those things. But I think it's going to be another busy year. We need to finish up the pool. We need to finish up some parking lot work at River Heights. We have roofs to look at, boiler at Oak Lawn to take a good look into, some more door replacements, things like that. So I think it's going to be another busy one. So with that, any questions?
If I could just point out a couple things. First of all, Kevin, great job. When Kevin talked about the curtailments and the peak control periods and talked about how things get switched over in the district, and that really does save us thousands of dollars on our energy costs. We're able to realize those savings because Kevin and Steve do that extra work. And it doesn't just happen with, one little flip of one switch. It's a lot of extra work for those 2 guys, but by doing that, it allows us to really better manage our budget when it comes to energy. So thank you to both Kevin and Steve for that. And then Kevin mentioned the roofs, and I know there's not a lot of detail in that tonight, but one of the roofs that we hear the most about would be at the high school, and the way that building is, that roof is a major challenge, and there's a lot of roof over at the high school, and we did have some issues this last spring, and that's really when it's the most difficult, is when you start having that freezing and thawing in the spring, and then also sometimes in the fall. And our staff members were real patient, did a good job with it, and I know Kevin and his crew, did some work this summer. Could you just touch on, I know you and I have talked about this, could you just touch a little bit on that, please, Kevin?
Yeah, so the roof that's over the northeast part of the building, over the science wing, is the one that's probably going to be replaced first. So yes, we've been up there this summer. We've been making a lot of repairs, in-house repairs. I went over to Altoona to a roofing supply place, got a little talk training. It's been a while since I've done that. We have our major maintenance staff based at the high school now that is also trained in this and on top of things. So as long as we know there's a leak, we're on it, as soon as the weather allows.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the report and for all the great work. I met someone, I was talking to someone over the weekend who doesn't have kids in the school, but uses the pool and uses the field house, and just talked about how much he valued that. And it's a good reminder, first of all, that like we have really great facilities. Thank you very much for all that. And that there are people using this beyond what we think about in terms of the K-12 setting. So, thank you. Did you or Steve have to go to into the school at midnight in sub-zero weather?
We started a little before midnight.
Okay.
We took care of that one. He's pretty local, and he said he had it under control, which he did.
Great, that's wonderful. Thanks for highlighting that that's not something that just happens with the flip of the switch.
Right.
We appreciate it. Any other questions or discussion on the Building and Grounds Annual Report? Thank you. Next up is Stacy Lee with our summer school report.
Okay, summer 2025, I shared the presentation with you. As you can see from that second slide, a lot of what we offered was the same format. The 3 2-week sessions, partnering with Parks and Rec, the Friday field trips. We had 1 summer camp. We also had Boys and Girls Club, wraparound services, and then some basketball camps, meet and greet, jumpstart, and collaboration with UW Stout, and 2 community theater programs. Our enrollment, as you can see, it went up in all aspects of camp, summer academy at both River Heights and at the high school. And our Friday field trips had a little increase, but still I'm not seeing the numbers that I want, so I'm going to look at doing some creative things with that and not relying on a bus, but doing some in-house kind of things at River Heights and the high school and things like that. So you might see some differences there next summer, but still people enjoyed them. We just did a partnership with the library for our first one and had the U of M Raptors presentation. And so it was really nice. They said they had over 300 people come. So we were able to count some of those that just came to the presentation. And next summer they want to do a reptile presentation. So we're going to keep partnering with the library because they like using our facilities because they can offer a lot more for families. So that was kind of a nice partnership that we just ran. Credit recovery is mostly at the high school. As you know, have a great credit recovery team. It's all housed by SDMA high school staff. They do a perfect job. I mean, I hardly have to help at all with getting kids there. They know the kids, they know the curriculum, and it's a really great program. As you can see, CVTC, UW Stout, and virtual learning are still being offered. We've been pretty consistent in what we're offering, and kids are taking advantage of it. Starting to see the numbers come in now. Those are just kind of preliminary numbers as I'm still waiting on some invoices and things like that, but our enrollments are pretty steady. I tried to do some historical data for you there, and you can see that our district does a nice job of offering a plethora of things that they can be involved in. This next slide talks a little bit about how many certified staff that we do have working summer school. It's pretty amazing, the amount of paras that work, the amount of certified teachers from our SDMA district. I did not have to go outside our district very often to hire people to work our program. The DVR student employees are students with identified as special needs, special disabilities, and they are doing some maintenance things and doing some lawn mowing. They're working food service. They're helping out in art classes. So it's kind of a nice partnership that we have with that program. Busing continued. We had to add another bus actually this school year because we had so many students riding the bus. We also offered free breakfast and lunch for anyone under 18. We are seeing daycares and community groups come in more since COVID. So that's been kind of nice that I'm starting to see the community come in and use that, such a valuable resource for getting food. So that was great. Just have some pictures in there for you. You can see our new classes. Carla Linfus and I really tried to look at our class offerings and looked at the middle school contingent, trying to get more classes for them. And I think we did a pretty good job. Some of the classes went well, and others I was surprised, like Swifties, calling all Swifties was not our biggest class, no. Wow, you would know with that announcement of the engagement, but maybe we'll have to do wedding fashion, I don't know. But yeah, the kids really enjoyed it. I heard a lot of great things about Intro to Hmong culture and language. Beginning ukulele was really well received. Jewelry making, sculpture and create was geared towards middle and high school, and I think that was really nice for some of those students that don't want to do the athletics and things like that. So had some great ideas from staff and also from Carla, and just trying to offer some more things. Just have some pictures in there for you, but if you go to slide 12, we're really proud of this one. This is the CVTC Healthcare Simulation Camp, and I might have this group come in and talk to you about their experiences, but it was hands-on. They got a free stethoscope, they got CPR certified, they were involved. The last day was like a mock training of providing quality care for a patient that came in. And you can see they're in scrubs, they're one-on-one with program leaders that are from the healthcare from CVTC. If they do enroll and go to CVTC upon graduation, they get a $500 scholarship just because they attended this camp. It was pretty amazing. They would come back and they were just really excited about it, and I hope we do this opportunity again because it was really a good experience for our students, especially that are interested in healthcare but just don't know what they want to go to. They were really exposed to the many things that are offered at CVTC. Friday fun days, like I said, the Raptor Encounters, fishing again at NatCon is always something that we like to do. Roshbach Museum and walking around Wakanda Park. Roshbach started some camps this year, and they're interested in wrapping that around and going with our summer school program. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit more to kind of help get some busing over there or things like that to encourage kids to partake in that local opportunity as well. You can see the numbers for Summer Academy enrollment. I put an asterisk by the River Heights number because I think that's because of Act 20, the personalized learning plans. We really tried to work with Brian and Tara about informing those families that it could be something that's offered. Next year we just did it as a trial run about what kind of services we could offer. We added some interventionists and some progress monitoring and changed things. And we really had a nice increase in the amount of kids, especially in that 2nd through 4th grade. The numbers really went up. We had to add another section. Usually there's just one section. So I'm really proud of our teachers that taught there and the number that we saw happen at River Heights. So that's one thing that went up for us. And then of course the Fine Arts Camp is always a hit. I used Parent Square this year to notify people of the groups and things like that. And our attendance number did go up by about 30 kids. So yay, Parent Square. I'll be using Parent Square a little bit more to remind people like when different sessions come up to really look and see what their kids are in and get their schedules. And I just think it's going to be a really nice communication tool during the summer to use. But I already saw some benefits at Fine Arts Camp with communicating with families. Looking ahead, we're going to continue those community partnerships. I think during summer we don't have a Y. I mean, we do have a Y, but it's limited, so we really do count on summer school. And so we're going to partner with Roshbach, the Menomonie Public Library again, and this will be the last year of the grant of the AIM Fine Arts Camp, but it will run because we can order supplies before that time. So we're just going to look at how we can coordinate responsibilities and make sure that still runs because it's very valuable to have that communication with Stout and the special ed and the partnership with learning behavior management, but also learning your craft of teaching art. So it's been a nice partnership. We want to see that continuing. And as far as academic services, just meeting the requirements for Act 20 for summer school. There are going to be some guidelines that we have to follow, but I think a step ahead. I think we're on the way to meeting those already. So I think it's a good thing. All right. And that's summer school.
Stacy, do you have any information on how the PLP for Act 20, how that went tutoring at the high school? Is that different or the same as at River Heights or was not? What am I thinking about?
Yeah, you're thinking of those like we had some classes, we had revamped Words for Fun, and they're doing some of the curriculum that would be a requirement. So those students that were kind of on watch or didn't have like a personalized learning plan or things like that, that at 20, they could take that class for some more support. And we had great turnout with that. We had 2 qualified teachers teaching that class, Darcy Hayden and Brittany Eckert both taught that. So it's nice to have quality SDMA employees, and then the flexible math, we had SDMA employees as well, offering some support if those kids want to take swimming lessons or things like that and didn't want to just do the whole traditional route at River Heights. So yeah, we do have opportunities up there as well.
It's incredible to see the vast opportunities. Like every time I see it, my mind's just blown by it all. And then every time I see it again, I'm just more further blown by more that's happening. And it's just incredible, the thinking outside the box that's going on here. But I will be super curious to see how that support specific to Act 20 and if we see any impact from that achievement-wise for our kids. And so I will be curious to hear of that. I'm guessing we will see something.
It was nice that Tara already trained some of our staff to do the progress monitoring and things like that. So we do have preliminary data from this group that currently went through. So we're starting that process to make sure that we're offering the right services.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do you think there's a chance of expanding the CVTC partnership on health to other subjects, or they have lots of interesting programs? I think that kind of like, it's like a little bit of vocation, a little bit of exploring a career path. That seems like a great partnership.
Yeah, they came to us with this. They had offered it to several other school districts, more local to them, like Chippewa and a few things. But if they come to us and they tell us of these opportunities, we're really open to that. I think Brian and I had met with them. They're really organized and get us the information so that we can get that out there to kids. So I didn't see anything as far as other things. They have their own kind of summer programs or the academies for a lot of things. But I really appreciated this health thing, and we had students sign up pretty quickly for it.
That's great, thanks.
I just wanted to commend you on a good summer school program and all the hard work that you put into it. And piggybacking on what Michelle said, I really like the idea of this, the Act 20, and I assume that these kids that you brought in were recommended because they were needing extra support.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that is super good, because one thing we all know is summertime, there's always that slide, and they have to kind of review the first several weeks sometimes of school. So I think that is a real plus to have that program for those kids to keep up, so that when they start school in the fall, they're, with it.
Yeah. I think parents did a great job of getting their kids there and enrolling them, and we saw a nice attendance rate, so it's a really good thing.
I'll say as a parent, I've always appreciated having both of those options and having the, okay, you're going to do the fun summer school, but we're doing fun with words, or we're doing mindset math, or some of those things have always been really great resources. I also want to say, since my kids have been in school in Menomonie, summer school has just been like a shining gem as part of what we offered here. And this year was like, I don't know if I should say this, but maybe their best year ever. Just on like a very personal level. The Hmong language and culture class was actually really well received by both of my children. So very nice work. Thank you so much.
Piggybacking off what Rachel said, we did River Heights for my two. They loved it. And then art camp we talk about all the time. We wish regular school was art camp. All the time. So thank you. And then the fact that there's free busing to summer school is so appreciated by everybody, I think, but especially just personally. It's so amazing to have that option. So thank you.
The partnership that we have with nutrition and with busing, unbelievable. Tom does a great job. We try and keep it as safety as we can, but I mean, you have kindergarten, you have first graders through 12th graders getting on the bus at the same time from the high school, over 1,000 kids. And I think we do a great job, and the bus company does a great job keeping everybody safe and able to come to school.
One thing I would like the board to take a look at here tonight on the summer school report, and again, great job, Stacy, is slide 14 with the enrollment. And we're going to be talking a lot about enrollment over the next few meetings. We have our third Friday of September count coming up, and we don't need to preempt all that necessarily, but If you look at the enrollment, in 2022, we had 900 kids at the high school, 245 at River Heights. This last year, we had 1,545 at the high school, 265 at River Heights. And it's not because our enrollment in our district is growing, it's because the programming has grown. And I think it's really important to understand that that large jump from 2022 to 2023, we definitely saw part of that too with some of the jumpstart things that we've done and expanded programming. That helped us mitigate a decline in enrollment that we saw at that point. You know, everyone's enrollment declined with the pandemic, and we recovered pretty well, but definitely we had a dip, and that helped us mitigate with our revenue limit how we could continue to, you know, make things operate. When the referendum failed, you all know that a number of cuts were made, most of them budgetary in terms of deferring maintenance contributions and eliminating French, also getting rid of budget contingencies. We tried to do everything we could not to impact programming. As we look, however, at the demographics of our community, and you know, when we project out over the next 25 years of, you know, age 0 to 19 in our Dunn County area declining by about 25%, we're going to have additional enrollment concerns. And I don't think we can build summer school much bigger than it is. I mean, I say that we are pretty, I mean, other than a few tweaks here and there, we're pretty much at capacity. So that fix that we had available to us, that fix is not going to be available to us again. So that's my little soapbox on enrollment and demographics. We'll talk more about it in the next few meetings.
I think that does show, I mean, that is, the fact that these numbers we're increasing so rapidly the last several years in the midst of overall enrollment declines is absolutely phenomenal. And it shows that a really attractive, well thought out, well executed program, you know, people love it. And during the summer school, obviously that's, you know, unique, but also during the year, I mean, you know, there's already, you know, there's open enrollment faces the same challenges, right? Being as attractive as possible to, and trying something, you know, interesting or that's going to engage families is a way to, yeah, you can't necessarily grow the numbers this way, but it's something to always keep an eye on.
Any additional discussion or questions on the summer school report? Thank you so much. Next up, we have our program resource reviews timeline.
All right, well, so this is an annual update, just to kind of reset where we are in our process of reviewing instructional programs in the district. To kind of set the stage, last school year, it was last school year it was science and then music and theater programs. This year on our docket is social studies and environmental education, which will include our SDMA environmental site, the Difference in Education Recreation Center, but also environmental ed in the buildings as well at the sites. What I've included is a timeline. When you look at that timeline, over the next 4 years, it's pretty set. And then it starts to repeat itself. The state of Wisconsin periodically rework the schedule of standard updates and things like that. So the next 4 years we have very well set, and then we'll probably see some updates, maybe to some of that program timeline after that. In addition, the utilize is included, and I'm not going to go through the template, but just a quick refresher on our process. Starting in our October PD Day, staff from our social studies departments in elementary, as well as those that are involved in environmental education, will start to meet, provide some input, some analysis as to how our current program structure is working, and then have an opportunity to make some recommendations and take a look at some needs that we'll have. And then this will come back. It's included as part of our major goals and activities that we have set for the school year. So as we get closer to the spring of the year, you'll see the outcome of those meetings in a report that will be attached to that. As far as a few things, the last go around with environmental ed, it was a pretty extensive review process and a lot of heavy lifting. So I anticipate it may be a bit of a refresh at this point. And then And social studies, again, when we did that last time, it was a pretty extensive resource review process. And since that point in time, what we've noticed is we've seen both an increase in the amount of time spent on social studies instruction at the elementary level, as well as our students participate in state assessments in 4th, 8th, and 10th grade, and we've seen some nice gains since that time as well. So I'm interested to see how those program reviews will go this year, but at this point I'll entertain any questions if anybody has them.
I think you mentioned in some of the notes, on the environmental education side, is it possible that would lead to you reviewing kind of how the environmental site is used, or what facilities are needed there, or kind of impact? I was thinking back to Kevin's report about, which didn't mention the environmental sites as kind of a separate report, but the idea of how do the infrastructure we have, the site that we have, how does that actually impact how we can do the education of environmental education?
So it could lead to that. One of the things that we do is we do a SWOT analysis of the program and with the environmental site, because that's a standalone facility as well, taking a look at just the condition of the site. The last time we did this, it led to some I guess I'll call them both instructional but also maintenance updates and things like that. I suspect that that type of review will be part of this. We're fortunate in that we have a site supervisor who's on staff this go around. Last time we did that, we did not have, we had somebody who was out at site, but also with some other staff. And the individual is very knowledgeable of the site, has been in that position now for a couple of years. So he's been maintaining both programming notes as well as facility notes and things like that. So I anticipate that that may be a little more thorough review this go around.
Okay, thanks.
Any additional questions or discussion on the program resource review timeline? I think you will look forward to learning more later in the year. Next up, we have a discussion of the process and timeline for the 2026 medical insurance renewal.
Eric will go ahead and present this. This is kind of, Eric was part of the renewal last year, so this will be second time around. Go ahead.
Yeah, so as you can see from the action plan that was provided to you on board docs, it goes through the timeline. So in the spring and summer, and in August 4th, it talks about Inovia and the opening of the clinic in Inovia. So today, the board will review and the timeline and provide any input for the 2026 renewal. So then throughout September, after this meeting, we'll work with the Insurance Center to review the current plan, discuss any recommendations. We're going to have our first Health and Medical Committee meeting of the fiscal year on September 25th. And that meeting will be to just review any renewal information, discuss any potential design changes. And then October 13th, at board meeting, you will review the renewal and discuss options. Then the Health and Medical Committee will meet again about a month later in October 23rd to review and finalize. And then in the second October board meeting, you'll consider the health plan that will be effective for January 1st. Then through starting in October 28th through around November 15th, SDMA will hold benefit presentations at each of the locations just to go over the new plan. November 1st through the 21st will be an open enrollment period for staff, and then January 1st of 2026, the new plan will take effect.
If I could just follow up, in the consent agenda items, the board always receives the rolling 12-month average in terms of our self-insured health insurance fund. And when you look at today's report, and this is the same trend now we've seen for several months, our balance in that health insurance fund has improved. And much of that improvement has become because of the plan design changes that were implemented. I don't know if it's probably a little preliminary to get too excited about that. However, if this trend continues, I really think as we look to our 2026 renewal, there may be more options than there have been in the last several years. So I think some, difficult plan design changes were made. The insurance center will be working with our health committee. I know Dale is the representative for the board, and that meeting will be coming up. Whether or not there's many changes, I'm not sure yet, but what I can tell you is we're not expecting big changes the other way where, we would have to increase deductibles and co-pays and things like that have been used in the past because of the status of the health insurance fund.
I'm curious to know where Anovia is in Menomonie.
Oh, it's right across from the Culvers in town. It's in that business district building that's right across from the Culvers.
Thank you. And one more question, and I'm not even sure who to pose it to, maybe Joe. Can you tell me a little bit about who makes up the Health Medical Committee?
Sure. Eric and Sam really kind of co-facilitate the committee. I'll attend as needed. But we have a board member. We have several staff members from around the district. We try to have both from our teaching staff, hourly staff, and administrative staff. Also, Lisa Kai is our benefit consultant here at the ASC. And then we have representatives from our partners with the insurance center.
Thank you.
And this was mentioned, but Dale is the representative from the board, and that first meeting of the year is coming up. Additional questions or discussion on the health insurance renewal? Great, thank you. I think I look forward to not having to see unpleasant changes in the coming year, so this is good news. Next up, we have a report on SDMA's role on the Joint Review Board for Menomonie. And Dave Smith is going to lead us on this.
I get to talk first. So I've been representative for SDMA on the Joint Review Board. So in our April organizational meeting, we choose committee roles. I've chosen that role since I've been on the board. And I just want to, this is kind of the first time there's been a reason to kind of report out, or at least mention it. It's usually a very quiet operation. So I want to kind of let everyone on the board know what this thing is and what it does, just for background information. So there's three, I attached a slide presentation, which I believe is also available publicly, or will be soon, which is basically summarized from the state handbook. But there's three words I want to introduce, three acronyms. The first is TIF, that stands for Tax Incremental Financing. The second is TID, Tax Incremental District. And the third is JRB, or the Joint Review Board. So tax incremental financing is a financing option that cities have to fund infrastructure and improvements in their area. And it's kind of a way of using property tax revenue to invest into an account, which then is used for that development. A TID is the physical region where that happens. They designate an area of land saying this is a TID, a tax incremental district. We're going to apply tax incremental financing for some number of years with some rules, and then that project proceeds. If you look at the slide deck, there are two important slides, two important figures. The first is the TIF picture, which is basically this is from the state handbook, I didn't make these. This is a representation of how the taxing of a TIF works. So, I know this. Okay. So, suppose that a TIF were made in 2020 in some area of land. As we know, the property taxes from the property there is divided among the city, the county, the school district, and the technical college. The way a TIF works is that, or the way TIFs work is that that amount for each of those entities is locked in for a certain number of years. So we would have, the school district would have the same revenue it did in, say, 2020 until that financing completes. The idea is at the end of that, the value of that property is worth a lot more because it's been improved. And at the end of it, all the entities then get the new tax level for the increased property. Now, what about the time in between, right? There's all this time, maybe 20 years, where a portion of the growing property value is not going to the school district. What it does is it goes into an account the city manages, and the city manages that money during that time to invest in the project. So one of the examples is the downtown area. That's probably the prime one. The downtown area, we've seen improvements to sidewalks, to lighting. We've seen improvements along the lake shore. Small business owners can upgrade their buildings. All sorts of improvements that kind of beautify the downtown. That is paid for with this TIF sort of system. So I want to read a couple sentences from the handbook. So state law requires a joint review board to oversee each TID. And the members and responsibilities of this board are defined in the state law. The members of the joint review board represent the taxing jurisdictions, that's the municipality, the city, the county, the school district, and the technical college. So any entity which has tax authority in the area, not the Lake District, but that's different. And it approves or denies these finance operations on these TIDs. So in specific, I bolded this part. The joint review board jurisdictions, that would be us as a school district, agree to sacrifice some amount of tax revenue for a certain number of years into the future, expecting the tax base will ultimately increase. So the idea is that by holding off on tax revenue for a certain area, at the end of that, the area will be worth more and there'll be more tax revenue. Now, something I wanted to note is that we all know that school financings are very complicated with this multi-leg stool. And so our property tax revenue, right, is really dictated more by the revenue limit than it is by the actual value of each particular building. So honestly, I think that in most cases this actually doesn't really affect our tax revenue at all. It shifts it around. Property A versus if property A is in the TID and property B is not, then maybe a slightly larger burden of taxes go on the building outside the TID while the TID is active. But overall, for the district's perspective, our tax revenue is basically written into the state rules, right? So correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, the revenue limit authorizes us to generate a certain amount of revenue, and then that revenue either comes from state aid or from local property taxes. Where it may have an issue is that if a large TID is approved, the property taxes would not include that area, so the tax for the school would come from everyone else. So the more TID districts there are, the higher everyone else's property taxes are.
And that would be a concern if, say, like half the area were covered in TIDs, right? But there's actually a state law that you cannot have more. I believe it's 12% of the value of the entire city cannot be designated as TIDs. So it can never exceed a threshold, which would be kind of particularly hazardous in that way. So this is a board that has votes on certain things, and in particular, like if the city brings forward a recommendation to create a new TID, the joint review board has to allow that to happen. It has a yes or no vote on proceeding to allow or adjust that TID. There are three criteria that the board is supposed to use. The first one is does the development require a TIF style financing? So if something would develop without this special financing mechanism, then it shouldn't need to use it, and they should go use private financing or something else, right? If the development would not happen without this financing, then that should be an exclusionary criteria. The economic benefits of the TID should be clear. That actually is, there's expected to be enough growth to compensate for the cost of the improvements, that you're actually investing in infrastructure, you're not just spending money. And that the benefits long-term of the proposal outweigh the tax increment paid by the property owners, so that to the outlying jurisdictions. So from the SDMA perspective, do we expect that the long-term benefits of doing this financing are actually beneficial? So one of the things that the joint review board does is we get these like dozens and dozens of pages of spreadsheets with different projected property value, and the main job the vote basically comes down to first of all, does this make sense in terms of it's actually building something or doing something productive for the town, and secondly, is that investment expected to pay off in the timeline that's designated. A TID has a certain lifetime, once it expires, it's supposed to, close with a positive value as anticipated. So it's really about, does the financing make sense, and does the project actually kind of hold water in terms of its development? So that's called the but-for requirement. At the end of that slide deck, I had pictures of the currently active TIDs. So these are, I put on Google snapshots from Google Earth just so you could see where they are. But these are not actually showing the actual literal outline. So TID 13 is a small area. It's where the Ellsworth Creamery went in a couple years ago. It's where the EXA Sports went in. It's where that Hurlburt warehouse is. That kind of corner north of the airport. That's TID 13. TID 14 is kind of Marketplace, Oak Avenue, the area just across the road from Fleet Farm, but on the west side of the freeway, in that kind of southwest corner of the freeway interchange. TID 15 is basically the entire downtown area. That TID is closing. It's been open for 20-something years and is now wrapping up. And now we're actually just last year, the joint review board approved creating TID 19, which is almost the same area with a few adjustments for some outlying streets. That's basically the idea of let's continue this downtown development process. TID 16 was a very small, very specific TID that I think is about to close out. And that was to build the Heights Menomonie apartment complex, just that one quadrant, that one property. So that's an example where there's one specific development which was only possible because it could get funding this way. TID 17 is quite interesting, I think, to the school district because it is pretty much all of eastern Menomonie, from the hospital down through past the middle school and Oaklawn, down to Dairyland Road. So it's a very squiggly region. It goes through 3M, includes residential, includes the 3M area around the airport, and some of the industrial park area. So when we look at new apartments or condos going in, when we look at improvements to the southeast side industrial park, those are all, or most of those projects are kind of in the TID 17 zone. So those are being supported in terms of getting new utilities, sidewalks, all things you need to develop that area are through TID 17. And I mentioned that because that one was just had a slight modification a month ago in the joint review board to adjust some of the boundaries just slightly to cut out one building of 3M, which was done improving, and include some other building which was maybe going to be developed off of the 3M campus. And then TID 18 was just created last year and only has one building on it so far. This is just west of the Ellsworth Creamery as you get closer to the river. So this was created in 2024. It's basically a couple of kind of farm plots that go along the edge of the river drainage area. One of the things that came up in the TID 18 discussion that the joint review board did ask is, does this TID, which is designated for industrial, did they appropriately cut out the watershed and deal with the issue of, will there be an industrial area overlapping with with a wetland, for example, along the river? And so that was asked and it was answered, and they cut it out appropriately according to all the records that we had. Of course, this is all in the air right now because there's been a lot of discussion in town about a potential data center. I just want to clarify that the joint review board has not seen anything on that yet. However, if that project were to move forward sometime in the future, and if they were to request TIF financing, then it would appear before the joint review board. So their SDMA, with me as a representative, assuming I stay on that committee, would have one of 5 votes on if there were a project like that, and if they requested this sort of financing, the SDMA would have one of 5 votes in terms of, does the plan make sense financially in terms of taxes, right? Under the purview of the joint review board. I put in a map of where that's expected to be. It's interesting that it's actually adjacent to the one with Ellsworth. So there's the Ellsworth Creamery and the Hurlburt Plumbing, and then the one to the west I was just talking about, which was TID 18. So if there were a new TID created for that potential development, it would be just across the road from the Ellsworth Creamery, basically lined up with the other 2 TIDs that were just mentioned. So just a sense of why is that relevant to SDMA? What is that board for? All right, so that's my spiel. If there's any questions or comments, I can be happy to field them. Also, for technical things, I'd probably direct people to Dan Dunbar or Eric Atkinson at the city.
That was really helpful. It helped me understand that a lot better than I had before, so thank you.
I would like to thank you for running for school board.
So the last point that you were making, if there was a future in which a vote was before the JRB where, SDMA would have 105 votes about this financing, I assume that would come after a pretty lengthy process of both city and county.
Yeah, I didn't copy this into the presentation, but there's the state manual, if you look on slide, is that slide 2, I think, or slide 3? The state manual, which is 47 pages long, has a description of the process by which TIDs are approved. And let's see, there's like 15 steps or something. Let me try to find that real quick. So the process would be a plan has to be written down with specific boundaries, projects, costs, criteria. There'd have to be a public notice. That notice would, I believe, have to go, would then be, there'd be copies of the notice sent to all the jurisdictions, which we get via email. There'd be public hearings. There would be a joint review board discussion of that plan. And then from there, the city planning commission would then proceed with a plan based on the approval of that TID. And then there'd be at least one vote in city council. And I believe there's another joint review board resolution. So I have to double check the process. I'm trying to right now. We haven't had one. The last 2 that have been approved, the joint review board only was at the tail end of it, because it's often a multi-year process. And I think the last one, the TID, was it 17 or 18, was multiple kind of years to kind of prep that and lay it out. And I think I only saw the last of the votes on that. So it's not a fast process, and there would be at least 2 joint review board meetings and at least 1, possibly 2 city council meetings where all that would be discussed and voted on by those entities.
And the joint review board meets quarterly, is that right?
It sort of meets on demand. We have to meet at least once a year to do an annual review of all the TIDs, which is what just happened a month ago. And that was the ones I just summarized. So we do all the financial reports of all those TIDs at that point. But unless there's actual activity brought to us by the city council, the joint review board has no action to take. So there'd have to be a proposal presented by the city to the joint review board. I should say also that all the mapping and all the financial stuff happens through external entities, right? It's not like city council writes the report in city council, right? There's a law firm who works on city financing in a very specific way, understands TIDs, and works out all the details of financing and presents it clearly. So, and likewise, if there's engineering questions and mapping questions, that's often answered by Cedar Corp. So there's a whole kind of team of specialists in the area who help present the material in a way that is sensible and thorough.
Thank you. I also want to echo what others have said. I really appreciate that you're doing this and for bringing this information to us. Sorry, go ahead.
So from a process standpoint, so I've been dealing with this stuff for 20 years now. I don't ever remember a TID decision coming from the board rep to the entire school board. However, that's certainly something that could happen if that's how the board or you wanted it to happen. And I know that it might be out there yet, but I guess maybe whether it be tonight or some future time, maybe a clear distinction on, yes, we have, our representative is going to make that decision, or, he'll be informing the board and then the board can advise or I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, Abe.
I want to raise that, because I think, so far none of these have been particularly controversial. Like, I don't think anyone is opposed, it didn't seem like anyone possibly be opposed to like refreshing downtown, facades and so on, right? Or having new apartment buildings near Oakland, right? It seems like this is, of course, a great thing for the district. There's in the state manual, there's a list of questions the joint review board should consider. Would it develop a TIF? Do the benefits outweigh the costs? But there is, is there a better use for the developmental site, the tax revenue, and the limited TIF capacity? What's the general opinion of the district's residents on this TIF, right? So it does call out these things should be considered. So I think if there's something that's particularly controversial or expected to be controversial, I would feel most comfortable if we can get the timing to work out to actually at least have a discussion among the board to get some sense of what the ideas are. It'd be a little tricky because the joint review board meetings typically have, they kind of appear ad hoc with notice, but getting that nestled between a board meeting, which may have a full agenda. But I think we should definitely try to have at least a discussion if there's something that comes forward that seems controversial.
It seems entirely reasonable to me. Anyone have final thoughts on that? Or additional questions for Abe?
Again, just trying to be helpful with process, just so we don't have surprises. So the practice has been that the board has vested its authority in the person the board has appointed to the joint review board. Unless there was particular action by the board, I would, if I were you, Abe, assume that still is the expectation of the board. I haven't heard anything here tonight to the contrary, but I think it's important for you to know what the expectation of the board is as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not on the board.
Just
trying to help.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I do think that that when you talk about something for a decision that could be quite controversial, it does make sense to try to have a discussion about that within all the constraints that are part of the process. And I personally have no problem in trusting you with the vote of the board if we can. Final thoughts on the joint review board. All right, moving on, we have planning for the State Education Convention. That will take place in Milwaukee from January 21st to 23rd, 2026. Often board members have traveled kind of Tuesday to Friday. Our board doc says if we plan to attend, let Jenny know at our earliest convenience. Is there a deadline or fuzzy, hazy deadline for hotel rooms / registration?
November 1st is when it opens, so I would.
Okay.
We have some time.
Okay, great.
You gotta let her know though.
Yes.
But it is amazing how fast the accommodations fill. So, yeah, I would say by that second meeting in October, we will take that information, and then from there, Jenny will make the reservations. But if you do know you're going, like, what do we have, Amber and Michelle so far? Okay, and Amy, so we'll make.
Yeah.
But we'll make note of in three, and we'll check back. This isn't like the one and done type of thing, but we want you to start thinking about it because it is January, but the accommodations are important.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, Amy. Dominique is our delegate to the assembly, and are you the alternate?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It might be me.
It's you. That makes sense. Yeah. Emily is the alternate delegate, in case Dominique can't make it. Great. Any other questions about the State Education Convention? Wonderful. Items related to next meeting dates, board committees, and reports. The Downsville Exploratory Committee meets for the first time, September 17th, right here at 6 p.m. Our special board meeting is September 22nd at 5:45. The Health and Medical Committee, as has been mentioned a couple of times, meets September 25th here at 3:50. As we heard earlier, the homecoming assembly and parade is September 26th. In October, the Quality Improvement Committee will meet here at 3:50 on October 6th. There will be no school for students and staff on October 10th, and there no school for students with professional development October 13th. And, the WASB regional meeting is coming up October 28th. It is not in Menomonie this year, it's in Eau Claire. Folks should probably let Jenny know, there's not a deadline here, but let Jenny know if you plan to attend the WASB regional meeting, for which you will have to drive all the way to Eau Claire this year. There are also 2 online meetings if you want to attend. The online meetings are free, I think, right, but they require registration. Any questions about upcoming meetings, reports, and board committees? Great, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So.
Wonderful, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.